And welcome everybody to Fantasy Empire with Chris Vaccaro, Nando DeFino. Great to be here. It's week 2, so of course Chris bullied his way into talking about week 1 today with his rundown, with his text rundown. It's back. How was
The
Vegas?
bullying has begun.
Yeah,
Nando, I missed you
ends.
last week, my friend. This last 2 weeks has been a complete blur. Drafts like crazy, and then flying from New York to Vegas for 5 days. Unbelievable time of high-stakes drafts out there. Everybody put on a great show, especially the NFFC guys. And back home, week 1 started and ended, and here we are to wrap it all up and put a bow on it and talk about week 2 as well. So let's get into it. A lot of players and teams and stuff I saw to talk about.
Before we get into it, I want to. Do you drink at these things? Like you say, it's a blur, and immediately I go to he must have been drunk. But I don't think you do that. I think you like take this very seriously, and want to have that edge where you're sober all the time.
Yeah, I'm not a drinker at the draft table. There are a lot of people that
Not even at the draft table, but like when it's done,
No.
like so you're not.
Yeah,
hungover,
no, stop. Come on. What do you think? Yeah,
I don't
when
think
we
you
go
would.
out
I
at
think
night,
you're a serious guy.
Well, at nighttime, no. After the drafts are over, we have a good time. So you're wrong on that one, my friend.
What if you got one the next morning? I guess I give you too much respect.
We did have a 9 a.m. call time for draft, and I went a little easier the night before, but we had a really good time out there.
By the way, quick programming note: our brother show, First and 15. It's a high stakes show, high stakes talk. The Chris Vaccaro crowd, we like to call it. It's on Fridays now, so just a heads up on that. First and 15, excellent show, a lot of high stakes talk. Moving to Fridays. All right, man. So since it's been 5 days since NFL games were played, you want to talk about them?
Stop it.
We'll go game by game on show tomorrow for episode. Let's go. What game do you want to start with? Do you want me to?
What game do you want to start with? How about this? I'm going to swing it around to you. What game stood out to you right off the bat, Nando?
Dude, I don't even know who played. Well, all right. Here's an interesting thing that I can tie together for you because I know you like to bet as well.
Sure.
So Giants got creamed, right? 40-0. And this is not because you're a Jets fan. It's because they got creamed 40-0, by the Cowboys. They looked as bad as everyone thought they were going to be last year. But now they go on and they face the Cardinals this week. And I think a lot of people are going to pick the Giants in their survivor pools. And if you're doing that, you're thinking the Giants are going to bounce back against a crappy team. So obviously there has to be some fantasy goodness in there. I don't think people think it's going to be a 3-0 survivor game. Yeah. Where do you stand on Jalen Hyatt was dropped in so many of my leagues last night into today. We run waivers on Tuesday nights in a lot of mine. I know you do Wednesdays into Thursday. But is there any hope? I guess where are you?
You know what? You know what happens here, Nando, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this. It's 1 week, so it's all our eyes have seen. So all fans,
but it's a very ugly week.
Everybody, it's like overreaction Monday. So we think, oh my God, this Giants offense is going to be absolutely terrible all year long, and on and on and on. We can't overreact to great things we saw and underreact to terrible things we saw. So it's got to play out. It's one bad week. Dallas smoked them. Daniel Jones looked terrible. Saquon Barkley, couldn't get going. 9 fantasy points. Darren Waller didn't live up to where we were drafting him on the board, right off the bat. So it's a complete throwaway game. That Dallas defense is very legit. So we got to factor that in. The game just got away from them really fast. The weird thing is the Giants came out. They moved right down the field, opening drive, and they looked real good. So as in terms of wide receivers, I can't start any Giants wide receivers even going into week 2 here. But I'm going right back to Darren Waller. Saquon Barkley's locked into your lineups, and I'm going right back to Daniel Jones in this matchup versus the Arizona defense.
If we're looking 4 weeks ahead, is there a Giants receiver? Are you maybe Slayton will find his groove? Maybe Hyatt will emerge a little bit.
I know you love talking Giants receivers, Nando, but my guy that I'm still holding deep at the end of benches as my last guy is Paris Campbell. I don't know if that is anything worth holding on to, but after that, no. I didn't draft Jalen Hyatt at all, and I'll still continue to stick by that. I just don't think that he's going to play enough snaps, and it's going to be too boom or bust for him. He's either going to catch a 60-yard bomb some weeks, or he's going to get, zeroed out. So that is, that's where I stand with the Giants offense. Better days ahead.
Let's go to Ravens Texans. There are two things
Yeah.
I kind of want to bring up that stood out to me a little bit. Number one, Dameon Pierce maybe isn't the stud back we thought he was. And number two, we spent this whole preseason being like, well, Greg Roman's gone. Now it's Todd Monken. It's going to be amazing.
Right.
And I don't think anyone ever looked at the history of Todd Monken and be like, maybe he's not an amazing offensive coordinator. Maybe he's not great. Do you feel the same way, Christopher?
Well, you know what? This Ravens offense, the one thing that stood out to me and a lot of other people is I think we have a superstar in the making here with Zay Flowers. And I'm lucky. The last 4 or 5 drafts, high-stakes drafts of mine out in Vegas, I made sure to draft Zay Flowers. I think he's going to be an absolute smash home run pick in that 7th, 8th round where he was going out there in the mid-70s, early 80s. He's going to be your perfect wide receiver 4 that's going to perform like a wide receiver 2. We were all confused on what, we were all taking our shots, guessing on what this wide receiver corpse was going to look like. Some people had Bateman as the one coming into the season, thought Zay Flowers would have to work his way into the, pecking order. But right off the bat, I think it's pretty clear Zay Flowers is going to be their number 1 receiver. Beckham and Bateman are going to fight for targets after that as the 2 and 3. I want to see how this offense looks once Mark Andrews comes back in because he obviously missed week 1. Once he comes back into this, I think it's Mark Andrews and the Zay Flowers show in the passing game. And I think Lamar Jackson, even though he looked pretty bad in week 1 here versus a Texans defense that he should have shredded, I think we got to give him a little bit of a pass. I'm going to give him a pass, Nando, just because without Andrews, I want to see how the whole offense works. The big disappointment here is we lost J.K. Dobbins, who I thought looked very good in the limited touches he had. Right off the bat, you lose, a 6th-round running back, 5th-round running back that potentially could have been a home run pick for 0 RB drafters. Because a lot of teams, I did a couple teams where I was wide receiver heavy early with a quarterback, came back with J.K. Dobbins as my lead back in that late 5th, early 6th. That's out of the mix now. And maybe that just means more on Lamar's shoulders this year.
Did you have Gus Edwards at least?
I did. I backed up, and I don't even know if that's going to be right, Nando.
You think it's going to be Melvin Gordon? They're talking about Melvin Gordon a little bit.
No, I don't think it's going to be Melvin Gordon. I think he's going to be he's pretty washed. If it's going to be anybody, I think it'll be more Gus than Melvin Gordon. And the young kid too. So
Justice Hill,
yeah, which he'll be very heavy. I'm sure, people listening now, they're going to their waiver wires to open up their wallets for Justice Hill tonight. He'll be one of the most sought after players, at the running back position. But, that backfield's going to be tricky. After J.K. Dobbins went down, I think the touches were 14-13 between Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. So could be a miss. It could be, just a mixing and a matching between the two here with Gordon making it a real disaster if he factors in.
You're talking a lot today, man. How do you feel about that? Is Nico Collins?
I'm getting it out of the way, Nando. I feel like I am talking. I'll let you talk, buddy. Go ahead.
Well, I was told not to interrupt you anymore, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to let you go, and then when you watch
that's what the listeners, not me. I didn't say that to you. The listeners said that to you.
What they don't realize is, like, you wouldn't get this because you never watched Lost. Like, you know how Desmond had to hit the numbers all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what I'm doing just to stop you from talking for 20 minutes about Justice Hill, whose name you couldn't
I got you. Listen, I mean, it's always nice when you reference a show from like 20 years ago.
I think people can relate. I think people know what I'm talking about.
I think you're lost.
I don't think I want to go into this game anymore, but I do want to know if you feel like Nico
Collins. We will. I want to. We had, like I said, we have a lot to get along over to. But Nico Collins and Robert Woods look like they've established themselves as the top 2 targets in the Texans offense. So I would be bidding on Robert Woods. I see him available in a lot of my waiver wires because nobody wanted any piece of him. But he got 10 targets. Nico got 11. I think those are the top 2 targets for a team that should be, playing from behind a lot this year.
Panthers, Falcons. I know a lot of people are mad at Arthur Smith Like I got Drake
Oh,
London
yeah.
on a bunch of teams. I thought Drake London was like the sure shot in the world.
Really?
And,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, like who else are they going to throw it to? First of all, like
That's
Mac Hollins is number
I
2,
agree.
right?
No, I agree
then,
with that outlook, Nando. I really do. The problem with I was on Drake London early in the summer. The more I thought about it, I got off of him. Luckily, for the way it looks after week 1,
Yeah.
in August and in my big drafts. So I don't have any Drake London. Problem with this is this guy Arthur Smith. He just wants to play ball control. I think the biggest factor coming out of this game is Tyler Algier is going to play a significant role in this offense. You know, we just thought it would be Bijan. If you're a Bijan Robinson owner like I am, a heavy Bijan Robinson owner, I loved what I saw out of him. No issues with Bijan Robinson. I just thought we would get a higher snap count out of Bijan Robinson. Now, maybe going forward, he plays a lot more with Algier on the field and split out wide and everything. But I was kind of hoping for those inside the 5, snaps that Algier took over. So Algier's playable, man. He could play an RB2 role, and he was an unbelievable pick in drafts. He was kind of a forgotten man going like 120th, 130th overall. And, he went after a lot of running backs that I regret taking over him because he's going to be that 12 to 15 guy carry in a run heavy offense. And he's definitely flexible.
Watch this.
There you go. Just like I left you before they.
Thank our sponsor real quick. 1 second. Watch this. Now I got to stop it and I got to play the video.
Oh, I see it every day online, every single day. Hey, that looks like a great fantasy team in an 8-team league. Oh, wish I could be in a league with you, right? Well, guess what? Now you can respond with, sure, let's play on Bettle. That's the beauty of this platform. This new Bettle platform standardizes all position scoring. So you just load your team and you challenge your friend, your colleague, Twitter troll, and you can browse other teams and issue challenges. Bettle is revolutionizing fantasy football. And with code UNDERWORLD, you get a $100 instant deposit match plus a free $10. So even if you deposit $20, you get $50. Think about that. So go to Bettle.com. The code is UNDERWORLD. Bettle.com. The code is UNDERWORLD. Or click a link in the description. It's fun to be right.
Monster.
Oh, hold on. Hey, you got to play it on the way out too, Chris. Chris doesn't pay attention to the emails. Bengals Browns.
So anyway, with real quick though, the rest with the Falcons though, Drake London, man, think about the receivers that people drafted over him in the 4th round, Nando. Yeah. Like if you go straight across the 4th round board, Drake London could be that wide receiver this year that just tanks, a la Gabe Davis last year or, Rashad Bateman. There's always major holes on the draft board in that 3rd, 4th round area. Drake London after 1 week, just because the fact that I don't even care. 1 target, that's your alpha wide receiver 1 on the outside. He's not commanding the ball. He's not demanding more targets. I mean, that's a scary proposition. I think the only way Drake London pays off some weeks is when they get behind and he gives you, a game where he's targeted 7 or 8 times. And what does that do? Is there enough targets for him and Pitts? It's what, drafters were really, facing, when they were trying to decide on who to pick and who they like in this Atlanta offense. Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I don't think both of them could be successful after seeing what I saw after week 1. But again, let's not overreact to 1 week.
The good news is, I think if you're in a super deep superflex league, like Marcus Mariota, I think has been vindicated here. Like it's not like Marcus Mariota couldn't pass last year. You know what I mean? Like it was they're not going to let him throw because he sucks at throwing. That's not it at all. That's just what they're doing. They want to hide Ritter as much as they possibly can. They want to treat him like Justin Fields earlier in the season last year. They want to keep him to like 22 pass attempts or less, and that's great for your Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson shares. It's not so good for your Drake London and Kyle Pitts shares. So Bengals Browns. This is probably the last game we get to at the pace you're going. I mean, Deshaun Watson disappointment. I don't know, like where you're looking at like Elijah Moore, everybody like it's just like a checklist of disappointments in this game, I think, right?
It's a throwaway game for Cincinnati, just the same way it is for the Giants, like we spoke about, Nando. So I won't touch on much from the Cincinnati, side of the ball because.
What about Joe Burrow still being hurt? Joe Burrow wasn't supposed to play this week in some scenarios.
I don't know if it was still because he was hurt. I think Cleveland's defense did an unbelievable job, and I think there's something to be said for the amount of camp time that Burrow missed. Yeah, he came back a week before the game, got a couple practices in, and then he went out to Cleveland, and he just wasn't ready. So maybe this lingers, though, for a couple weeks. Maybe Cincinnati's that, top-tier team that we see get off to a 1-3 start, a 1-4 start before they get their act together and the offense picks up. But if you drafted T. Higgins in the late second, early third round, he pulled the bagel, one of the few bagels that big players, pulled this week. And you don't expect to take a T. Higgins in the top 25 overall and then get blanked in week one. But credit to the Cleveland defense, they put on a show. And the only couple things I want to touch on real quick in the Cleveland offense, it's nice to see Elijah Moore, even though he didn't put up big numbers. Snap percentage-wise was there. Targets, 7 targets. Looks like the clear number 2 in this offense, if not the 1B to Amari Cooper's 1A. And even your boy Donovan Peoples-Jones, even though he didn't put up a lot of numbers, he played a really nice high snap percentage in week 1. So maybe he can have flexible weeks just like last year as well. And as for Nick Chubb was my RB3, Nando, coming into the year. Loved him, took him at the 1-2 turn as much as I could. My strategy was to always be in the back end of the first round and try and make sure I got either one of Barkley, Bijan, or Nick Chubb as my RB1 in the early second round. So a lot of Nick Chubb shares. We're all in on Fantasy on Empire on Nick Chubb all year long. So great start from him. 4 targets out of the backfield, 4 catches. That's going to help as well. And if that game wasn't a blowout late in the second half, he would have put up even bigger numbers. So Nick Chubb to the moon, buddy.
I want to apologize to everybody. I think I had still hit the leaf blower sound effect somehow on this in the background. I don't know. I don't know how to turn it off.
It's back this year, Nando. I can't believe it. I'm sitting here saying the same thing to myself. I can't believe the landscaper came at this time. I'm waiting for him to go away. It's not
can't mow his own lawn.
God.
Let's keep going on the list. The 49ers, Steelers. I got a lot of Pickett. I got a Pickens stack on a couple of my teams.
Your teams look like trash after week 1, huh, buddy?
You want to hear this team? Hold on, let me pull it up.
Did it score 50 points?
No.
Drake London, Kenny Pickett. Oh my God.
This is the problem, I guess, when you bring yourself down to like only 3 teams this year, is that they can suck and just ruin it. So my starting quarterback, this is super flex league, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 super flex. Josh Allen's my quarterback. Kenny Pickett's my super flex. Cam Akers and Joe Mixon are my running backs. Josh Jacobs was my flex. George Pickens and Drake London are my wide receivers.
Oh my God.
Will Lutz.
Did you score 50 points in week 1?
I somehow got to 70. There's only 0.5 PPR. And my tight end is Dallas Goedert.
Oh, he's the other bagel this week. Yeah, that was a real disappointment.
Yeah.
You know what? The whole tier of elite tight ends.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that game in like 25, 30 hours.
No, we will. But just a blanket statement. This was a terrible week 1 for the elite quarterbacks and the elite tight ends. Straight across the board. Everybody stunk.
Let me ask you this, Christopher.
Kelsey and Andrews were out. Waller, Goddard, Pitts, Kittle. Think about that. Probably the top 8 tight ends off the board all bombed in week 1. It was the tight ends that you took in rounds 12 and later that were productive. And that was, we talked about that a couple weeks on the show. You could really wait on tight end, put something together, So those are the guys that put up some decent numbers and showed maybe some signs of, hope at the tight end position if you waited on it, down the draft board.
You know who the Jets should bring in? PJ Walker.
You got your PJ Walker mention in already.
Let me ask you this question, Chris. Philosophical question.
Yeah.
Do you think that week one was such a low scoring and like concentrated on the elite quarterback affair because a lot of these teams, I mean, like you don't have that fourth week of preseason anymore, and all you could just sit there and just like game plan the crap out of Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Like if you're Cleveland, if you're Stefanski, you're just like let's just beat them in week one. We got like 10 days to beat the Bengals, essentially. Like, do you think that had something to do with it? And now that it's week two, they're back to a normal, like, okay, we got 5 days now to game plan for this one.
Yeah, I don't even know.
All your energy, all your concentrations on that week one game for so long because you don't have that last preseason game.
Teams have the whole offseason to prepare for week one. So,
you see a
lot of things. You see, like, Bill Belichick put a good game plan versus the Eagles, stuff like that. But in terms of the I just felt it was weird that all the elite quarterbacks struggled. And I don't think that trend will I don't think that trend will continue, but I don't think any of them broke 25 fantasy points in NFFC scoring. Mahomes, Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence were right around 25, but, like Burrow tanked, obviously. Hurts had 17 fantasy points. All these guys just had off week ones, and I hope that's not a trend that continues. I don't think it will be.
What about Tua? Tua's not elite to you?
Tua wasn't in the elite 8 quarterbacks, but Tua, he looks like right off the bat that he could be that quarterback that you got around pick 100, 100, 110 after the elite 8 quarterbacks went, and he could fit right in with those top 5 or 6 guys. We knew that going in. He had the weapons, he had the offense. It was just he got pushed down more for his health-wise. At any point, he could take a shot. We could say that about anybody, though. But talent-wise, a lot of people built their teams around Tua, though, Nando. It was a great strategy. I've did it a couple times myself where I tried to build my teams to load up on receiver and running back early and then hit on Tua or Kirk Cousins, in those 10th, 11th rounds. Those are the 2 guys in my eyes that could, perform and put up the numbers that the elite 8 guys do every week. And, mixed in with some bad defenses and weapons and everything like that. We saw it from Kirk Cousins in week 1. Before you knew it, you looked up, he was over 300. If he got to, I don't see how any reason why Kirk Cousins can't be in these games every week where it's 31-27 and Cousins is, 350 and 2 or 3 touchdowns. And he gives you the numbers. The problem with those 2 guys is they don't give us anything on the ground. They don't run. So, in a day and age in fantasy where you want your quarterback to be able to contribute on the ground, those 2 guys fall a little back, But after one week, Nando, after 1 week, would you take Tua and Kirk Cousins over Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones?
I don't know about that. I would definitely take Tua. I don't know, but you can't. That's an unfair grouping. I don't know if I would put Cousins ahead of Deshaun Watson for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Like you said, it's just 1 week. You're overreacting.
I didn't love what I saw. It's only 1 week. Correct. I wouldn't, I don't want to overreact, but we do have just the 1 week right off the bat to, for our eye test. And Deshaun Watson didn't pass the eye test in week 1. And that's one of the guys I wanted to make sure, I saw a lot of to be like, all right, was last year just a mirage, those last 6 games? And sure, he had a little bit of a, bad weather again, but how many more excuses can we make for Deshaun Watson? He took off and ran for that touchdown. That was great to see. I'll say that much. But and he helps you in the run game. But he's got to get it together as a passer to get those numbers up. 155 passing yards isn't going to crack it.
We got a fantastic question from Francis. If you're running back needy, would you trade away Drake London to get Gus in half PPR? He says he's stacked at wide receiver. There's some good context for you.
No, absolutely not. That's an overreaction. No.
Is it an overreaction, or is it like, hey, for the last 3 or 4 years,
we're not
all
trading
Baltimore has shown us is they want to play Gus Edwards. All they want to do is play Gus Edwards at running back, and now he once again has a chance to have back.
And in week 2, this is what I'm talking about, where people overreact. And then what happens? Week 2 comes. And
Dobbins is out for the season.
Maybe Justice Hill gets 12 carries. Melvin Gordon gets 7 carries. Gus Edwards gets 7 carries. And Drake London goes 7 for 90 and a touchdown. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, my God, my stud 4th-round pick, I traded away for a bum backup running back. No, you got to sit and hold.
Is he a bum? Like, I still love Drake London. This isn't a Drake London thing to me. This is more like, this is like week 1. Like, all right, let me put it this way. Where would you draft Gus Edwards right now, knowing like if J.K. Dobbins was gone in week 3 preseason, if this happened 3 weeks ago?
Move him up a couple rounds. Gus Edwards was the 17th or 18th round backup running back pick for, depth on your bench, and move him up to 14th or 15th. He might be the backup still to Justice Hill.
I don't know. I don't think he will. Like,
right. You're all on the Gus bus.
I'm wrong.
You're all on the Gus bus. Nando, I want to talk about. I'm sorry. I offered an opinion of the Chris Vaccaro show. My bad. Sorry. Let's get back to me just saying games. I want to talk about the player that stood out to me the most. Okay, that I wasn't in on. I don't think most fantasy. He wasn't a sexy name on the draft board, but after watching what I saw in week 1, I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna smash his ADP and be a real weekly contributor. Jakobi Meyers of the Raiders. Now, it's unfortunate. I know, it sucked. I'm watching the game. I'm like, oh, my God, I have a stud on my hand. This guy's going to play a major role in an offense where there's limited targets. And then he gets knocked out, unfortunately. He was out cold. I'd probably misses a week, maybe 2, because that was a really bad concussion. But when he comes back in this offense, if he picks up right where he left off, if you took Jakobi Meyers in round 9, 10, 11, where he was going in all high stakes drafts, to drafters that were just like, fine, give me Jakobi Meyers. I need a receiver. That was like the feeling you had drafting Jakobi Meyers. Him and Davante Adams are the show, man. I don't know if Jakobi Meyers, just people didn't want to draft him because maybe Hunter Renfrow, they thought maybe he could still be the number 2 there. Renfro's a forgotten guy. He played, I think, 22% of the snaps in week 1. He's done. And there's really no tight end to talk about until maybe Meyer gets established later in the year. Jakobi Meyers is going to see a ton of targets every week. He's going to see, he's never going to see the top corner. Davante Adams is always going to draw the attention. Jakobi Meyers is going to be that safe 6 or 7 catch wide receiver that you drafted as your wide receiver 5. He's going to perform like your wide receiver 2 or 3. Those are the picks that win you leagues right there. Jakobi Meyers was one of my biggest winners of week 1. I'm glad I snagged 2 late shares of him. I wish I had more.
You can't trade in those high stakes leagues. But if you could, would you trade Drake?
He's definitely somebody I'd be trading for. This would be the time to go trade for him, because people are like, all right, well, he's probably going to miss a couple weeks, because of this really bad concussion. But
would you rather have him or Drake London?
This is going to be the Drake London show for you, right? I know how you
I think
just
so, because Drake London's actually kind of interesting, man. Like,
you got to stick with Drake London. Got to stick with Drake London. It's just somebody that you just didn't like what you saw out of week 1, but you're sticking with him. You're not trading for pennies on the dollar,
I'm just asking. Maybe in 4 weeks, if Drake London keeps this up, your opinion will have changed. How about that?
I understand. Can we talk about the other player that jumped off the page? Another league-winning play. Oh, I hate that. Is that Romeo Doubs? I hate that I said the league-winning play, Nando, because I hate when I hear others say it. But you want to guess who it is?
Give me some hints.
No, we don't have time for that.
Come on, man. Give me, Jordan Addison. You probably love Jordan Addison.
We just talked about 4th round Drake London. Imagine every draft I was in, Drake London went ahead by a full round, maybe even at worst a half round, over Brandon Aiyuk. Okay, and Brandon Aiyuk could be this year's wide receiver that we see it every year. There's a receiver that goes in that 4th or 5th round, maybe even 6th, and he performs like a 1st rounder, 2nd rounder. And again, not to overreact, because maybe next week is Debo, but I just have this feeling that Aiyuk is going to be that guy. Shout out to our boy, Matty Modica. That was his guy all summer long. And as much as I liked him, I didn't like him as much as him, but went out to Vegas, got a lot of Aiyuk shares. I'm really happy about that. If Kittle could just take that step back and not factor in, which I'm hoping that he does, I think Aiyuk and Debo could smash in this offense on a week-in, week-out basis. But look for Aiyuk. If this trend continues here, we have a superstar on our hands. And there's been those rumblings all summer long about Aiyuk, about how he's ready to take the next step. He was drafted after Debo on 98% of draft boards. I think that's, I think that was going to wind up being a pretty big mistake.
All right. Thank you for your opinion on that.
No
Next
problem.
game, Washington, Arizona.
Thank you for listening.
I'm not paying
listening,
attention.
my friend.
I'm just waiting for you to stop, and then I'm going to read another
You're
two
playing,
teams.
What are you playing? Solitaire over there?
No, in my hands.
You trading your Geno Smith cards, by the way?
No. Why?
You
Why would
must
you
have lost
overreact?
so much money. You must have lost so much money on your Geno Smith investment this past Sunday. Oh, my God. He's back. The pumpkin. He turned into a pumpkin again.
No, man. Come on. Real against the best defense in the NFL?
Oh, my God. Please don't say. Do you realize we're live and you say things like that?
It's the best defense in the
Geno
NFL.
Smith, the Rams?
Yeah.
One of the worst defenses in the NFL?
Last year.
Please. Don't embarrass yourself.
All right, we'll see. Well, you know what? We'll see what happens. All right, I should be writing these down because you have like the same reaction to everything I always say.
No, listen.
Like
every now and then
that turns out okay.
Listen, every now and then you get it right. There's a needle in the haystack. You land on.
Yeah, Aaron Donald. I think he's supposed to be good. Arizona, Washington. Speaking of great defenses, Washington. That Jack Del Rio, huh? Yeah. Listen, did this make you feel like a little like maybe Arizona's not as bad as we thought they were?
No, I just think Washington is not that much better. So it was just two really bad teams playing each other, and one had to win. So that's what we saw. There really wasn't much in that game, Nando, that I liked on either side of the ball. I was hoping to see Brian Robinson had 19 carries. That's why we drafted him. Clearly he's catching there. But, I mean, I think he's going to be matchup specific. You don't want to put a Brian Robinson in there in games where they're getting, blown out. I don't know. Like that touchdown catch, and it was a great touchdown catch that he had in the end zone. That pretty much saved his day. Other than that, it was 19 carries for 59 yards. That's not that's not good. But, not much. There's not that many useful parts in his offense. Terry McLaurin was like 2 for 31. You hope to see better numbers for that, but it was great to see you get the value on Terry McLaurin on draft boards. The last 2 weeks of the season, he fell 3 rounds and he didn't even miss any time. People thought he would miss time. So,
well, he could still be bothered by it though. I mean, like, turf toe.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Listen, turf toe is something that they say, you deal with all year long, but he looked fine to me. So he had a nice deep catch for one of his
Yeah, but you were drunk at the pool in Vegas, man, just watching games, bro.
Yeah, man, it was hammered. Nah, I saw all the games, and I actually landed early Sunday morning to make sure I was at the bar for Sunday. So get it right, buddy. So that game was a whole bunch of crap. All
right, Bucs Vikings then. Let's not worry about it then. Bucs Vikings. Baker Mayfield scoring 20 points.
Bucs Vikings. Remember a couple weeks ago we talked about how there was 3 receivers that nobody wanted this year on draft boards. They were like the forgotten guys that people would just kept pushing down.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were Tampa Bay Bucs wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I said we could wind up looking back mid-year and regretting that. The other guy that I said between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin was Michael Pittman, who had a monster week 1. Who's now another receiver that I'm going to regret because I have no shares of Michael Pittman. I didn't even follow my own advice. But
why is that,
Pittman,
Chris?
I don't know. Sometimes I just got to listen to my inner self, Nando.
More V-necks.
Michael Pittman was definitely a Nando wide receiver this year. Like the receiver that nobody wanted. So was Mike Evans. But listen, we come out of the gate, and what happens? Exactly what we said would probably happen. Godwin and Evans is the whole offense, the whole passing offense. I think Evans had 10 targets. Godwin had 7 or 8. His numbers weren't great, but Godwin's going to produce in this offense. He's going to have those weeks where he catches 8, 9 balls. And Evans, nobody wanted him on the draft board, but these 2 guys are going to pay off. You drafted Godwin in like the 5th round. You drafted Evans in the 7th. They're both going to overproduce their ADP. And the same thing while we're on it for Michael Pittman, because he's the only show in town in the passing game. And, he's going to see the targets every week. So these are receivers that you got later on than they should have been because people were off of their offenses and nobody wanted to go near it. But you can always get reliable targets and catches out of even bad offenses. These three guys just fell into that category this year.
Are you on the Sean Tucker train? He's a trendy guy that everybody loves.
I'm in on the Sean. I drafted a ton of Sean Tucker late. I'll tell you what. While we're talking about Sean Tucker, my favorite guy. People were laughing at me in Vegas because he was like my automatic 17th round pick. Was Josh Kelley of the Chargers.
This is the Chris McCarroll victory lap show, right?
I hate that. I don't want to be a victory lap. I'm just saying
because so humble.
Well, listen, I just told you I drafted a ton of Sean Tucker. He didn't do crap, So yeah. But those were two of definitely my favorite, running backs to draft. 12th, 13th round and later, because that's how we build our teams. A lot of us, and me especially, I want to load up on my receivers early. I want to get my quarterback. And then in rounds 12 and on, I'm just loading my bench up with backup running backs that I like, that they're in a situation where they're one play away from having a huge role and even maybe could be standalone. Like, look at Josh Kelley while we're on the topic, Nando.
Joshua.
15 carries. Huh?
Joshua.
What'd you say?
Joshua Kelley.
Oh, sorry, Josh Kelley. I'll call you Joshua. But right now we're dealing with this. I'm waiting to hear. I'm sure a lot of players are this Austin Eckler ankle injury news. A lot of talk right now that it might be the high ankle sprain, and if he's got the high ankle sprain, Josh Kelley is going to be a borderline high-end mid RB2
People
going
don't
forward.
miss time anymore for the high ankle sprain. No one misses time anymore for that.
No, running backs don't miss time for a high ankle sprain, Nando.
No, you don't even miss a week anymore for a high ankle sprain.
Have you hit your quota yet this episode of crazy things Nando says?
All right, look it up.
A Rams top defense, you said already.
Yeah,
nobody misses time for high ankle sprains anymore.
That's also true.
You only have one or two more left in you, buddy. I'm just going to tell you that much.
Philly Mike OG in the comments section is saying Rashad Penny will be the lead number one back this Thursday versus Minnesota. I promise you, as a lifelong Eagles fan who gets the inside insight, start Rashad Penny.
Well, listen, where was Philly Mike OG in week 1 when Kenny Gainwell came out and was the lead dog in the Philly offense, and Penny was
Gainwell's hurt.
Active. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Now Gainwell looks like right now, as of today, that he's not going to play. This backfield is a complete mess. It's why I kind of wanted to try and stay away from it, but it's tempting when you're on the board and these guys are all there, where they were. DeAndre Swift was the running back coming off the board first in every draft, and he did nothing in week 1. Yeah. Limited touches. Let's see if his role increases. It has to, in my opinion, if Gainwell does in fact sit. But can you see Penny going from inactive to all of a sudden in the lineup and getting 15 carries and as a bell cow?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Listen, it's just going to be one of those backfields where you just, toss it up. I wanted to try and stay away from this backfield as much as possible. I have some shares of each of these 3 backs. I hope that, the plan when I took any of these guys was to try and let September go. Let's see if the situation unfolds a little more clearer. Maybe one of these guys gets hurt. It elevates the other 2 into prominent roles. You getting a little bit of value, in my opinion, on these 3 guys. So let's see. But right now, it looks like Kenny Gainwell was the right pick, for out of these 3 in the backfield.
How about the Packers and the Bears? You feel like Jordan Love is a thing now?
I don't know about a thing. I think he's a serviceable QB2 that you could fill in. I don't know. I think the Bears defense was atrocious. I think they're still bad. He did that without Christian Watson, though. That's another team that's just, Aaron Jones got banged up in that game. We'll see what his status is. A lot of injuries, Nando. Week 1, right out of the gate. Aaron Jones is one of them. We'll see if he misses some time now with the ankle. Once he got hurt, he never came back. So maybe it's time for the plotter, AJ Dillon, to try and cash in some of.
Everyone's turned on. I've never seen fantasy players turn on these guys so quickly. Like, you loved AJ Dillon 2 years ago. You sweated.
I did. I loved AJ Dillon, and the reason why I was drafting him again this year was, last year we were taking A.J. Dillon in the 4th round, right?
Yeah.
Now this year he was going in the 9th and 10th rounds.
Yeah.
I got a couple shares of A.J. Dillon. I remember one of my bigger drafts out in Vegas. I got him 114th overall. And, you take a guy like A.J. Dillon, not because you completely believe in his talent and you think he's going to be a stud running back. But again, if Aaron Jones goes down, now you have a running back that you can actually play. But, I still didn't like what I saw out of him when he got the ball in week 1. And even Patrick Taylor, got some carries. So let's see. If Aaron Jones goes down, that's the reason why you have A.J. Dillon on your bench.
On the Chicago
By the way,
side,
the Bears. How about the Bears on the other side of the ball?
Okay. Hey, thank you for stealing my segue.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I want to ask you if you'd rather have. Let me start off with this. DJ
Yeah.
Moore was like the DJ Moore of like 2019 and 2017, I think, ish. Like when he would disappear, everyone's like, "DJ Moore suck," and like, no, he's whatever. And everyone made a huge deal when he got traded here, and he's going to be the savior. Would you rather have Pittman or DJ Moore right now? Let me ask you that. Not 33 asked that too.
DJ Moore, man, come on.
I'm just making sure.
No,
Maybe you saw this game and you're like,
DJ Moore. But listen, again, just like Drake London in that area, that late 3rd round, early mid 4th, like, DJ Moore, you brought him in here, he's your number 1. Give him 2 targets.
Yeah.
I don't even care if he caught 2 balls, 25 yards, and it was on 8 targets. At least you're feeding him. You got to do better than 2 targets. So that's scary to see. And are we back to, is this just a 1-game throwaway with Justin Fields or what? But the whole offense didn't look good to me at all. And that backfield, it really didn't clear up anything. Khalil Herbert early on was the main guy. Maybe, the game got away from them a little bit, so we saw more Roshan. Roshan looked good.
Roshan was garbage time.
Foreman
was actually getting the carries.
Foreman came in after that. That's why it's like a 3. I was hoping Foreman wasn't going to factor in, and that maybe it was going to be all Khalil Herbert mixed in with a little Roshan. But Roshan, you can't ignore, man. He looked really good, and I'm still going to say that Roshan Johnson by midseason is a running back that takes over the backfield here.
You're usually right about this stuff. You were right about this a few years ago with DeAndre Swift, if I remember this correctly.
Every now
People
and then,
take heed.
Squirrel gets a nut every now and then, Nando.
Yeah. Every once in a while, a leaf blower blows a leaf directly under your window for a half hour straight.
It's crazy, right?
Every once in a while. All right, we hit all the games.
We spoke about Zay Flowers.
You want to talk about Zay Jones, right?
I want to talk about Zay Jones, man. Actually, I want to talk about that whole Jacksonville offense, Nando, because that's one of the other major things that I took out of week 1 was another 4th, 5th round wide receiver that could completely tank, and that's Christian Kirk, because that's really scary.
Yeah,
what you saw, and think about it. The telltale signs were there in the preseason, but I don't know if we chose to just ignore them, but in the preseason games when the starting offenses were out there, Zay Jones was the number 2 receiver in 2 wide receiver sets. I just think that, maybe there's something to be said next year when we're, looking at these things, that maybe not to overlook certain little things like that. It was in the back of my head. I'll be honest. I was big on Christian Kirk early in draft season, ton of shares. He was my late 4th round target. I have a ton of Christian Kirk on online championship season, completely avoided him in my main event season. And I'm actually happy about that. I think I have maybe 1 share, but Zay Jones is another receiver nobody wanted. He went after pick 100. And in this offense, he looked unbelievable, had a great touchdown catch in the end zone. Looks like Lawrence, has a good rapport with him. And Christian Kirk could just be the guy that takes the back seat, have some weeks where he factors in. It's going to be tough to predict those weeks if he's running as the 3 and only in 3 wide receiver sets. But
in reality, he might be the 4th option too. He might be the 5th option.
He is the 4th. He is. He
might be after you count ETN and then you count Ingram. He's the 5th option, maybe.
Yes. And ETN's looking like right off the bat that he could be that real home run smash pick in that 3rd round, 4th round at the running back position. There was like the elite running backs we talked about in the top 2 rounds, and then it was like a lull. It was once you got past Derrick Henry, there was the Najee Harris's and a whole bunch of other guys. And then, there was ETN there. He was coming off the board anywhere from like RB8 to RB12 or 13. And he looks like he might be that guy that takes a step up and could contribute just like the, top 7 elite running backs there.
What was that ding?
That was an email. You heard that?
Yeah, everyone did.
Oh, sorry.
Because you don't use headphones. If
Yeah.
I email you right now, will it ding?
Come on. Don't do that.
I wouldn't.
Don't do it, man.
I wouldn't.
But hey, listen, in talking about ETN, 5 catches. Like, that's what we wanted to see from ETN. The talk about him is, hey, ETN can't catch balls out of the backfield. He struggles to catch 5 balls for 27 yards. Gets the job. I know what you're doing, Nando. You're trying to email right now. That's, grow up.
It didn't work.
Be a professional.
You're talking.
Nando.
Who cares? Just keep talking.
So anyway, listen, that Jacksonville offense, it could have been a bigger day for Trevor Lawrence. He's definitely probably one of the top 2 quarterbacks that I am most ownership on. So we're a big Trevor Lawrence podcast here this year, Nando, as well as the Jaguars.
I think he's good. I like him. He's a readable guy.
Where did you stand? Where did you stand with Calvin Ridley this year, Nando? Were you buying the hype like most of us high stakes players were?
Yes, because at my heart, I'm a high stakes player.
Well, I
hate trading, and I love talking about high stakes players. That makes me a high stakes player.
When I say that, I just mean like in terms of the drafts. I'll tell you this much: out in Vegas, Nando, the last week of drafts, Calvin Ridley moved up to, and it's funny that like the maturation process of Calvin Ridley in draft season. He started off as a 4th rounder. He then became a late 3rd rounder, to where he moved all the way to the early 3rd round, to the late 2nd, and then ended up in the mid-early 2nd out in Vegas, the final week of drafts. And guess what?
What?
Nobody was wrong about moving him up that much. There were players out there in Vegas that were taking him at the 12-13 turn.
Probably
right at the turn. And they look like geniuses right now. I regret. I'll tell you
after 1 week. After 1 week.
100% after 1 week. But I'm just saying, if you could re-rank that whole tier of like Olave, Jalen Waddle, and Devonta Smith and Calvin Ridley, where Ridley was more likely going after those 3, he was the next guy up. I don't know if I move him to the front of that list and take him right after the elite 8 wide receivers that were going in the 1st round, and right there with Devontae Adams early in the 2nd round, because it just looked like Ridley's, he's the clear number 1 there. He's in a big-time offense with a big-time quarterback, and you could just see the volume that he's going to get. He was getting peppered, with targets there. So Ridley's going to pay off his 2nd-round price.
I know we just talked about this, but I still feel like Lawrence and Christian Kirk did stuff together that was pretty good. I don't think you just stopped going to that person.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. There might be some bad Ridley games. There might not. But I mean, there might be.
It's one of those offenses. There's a plethora of options, right? There's going to be the weeks where it's the Evan Ingram week, where Evan Ingram's 8 for 85 and a touchdown or 2. I just don't know if, it's more about the paying off the price of what you paid for Christian Kirk. He was a top 50 overall player. You drafted him as your wide receiver 2, or your 3 in certain builds. He's not on the field enough. You don't want to draft a wide receiver 3 in a certain offense and a 4th target in the 4th round. So right off the bat, it's a bad pick, Nando. That's what we're saying. Is he going to have his games where he's 6 for 70 and a touch? Yeah. But I need to see more touchdown. I need to see more, more snaps than what he did in week 1.
This must be your other email address, like your work email address. Okay. Not your personal one.
Sounds good.
I'll try that in a minute. Are you done? On a similar note, on a related note, Treylon Burks, he wasn't exactly the same level of Christian Kirk, but he was a little bit behind. Like, are you as similarly disgusted with Treylon Burks, or no, because he didn't cost as much?
So that Tennessee offense, I was hoping to see more out of Treylon Burks, but I think it's going to take a little time. He missed basically all of camp with the injury. But it looks like, I was hoping for Hopkins and Burks to kind of be like a 60-40, in terms of target share. It just looks like D-Hop is the clear one. People that went in on DeAndre Hopkins in the 4th round, I think they're going to be pretty happy this year because, he came out of the gate watching that game, 13 targets for Hopkins. He's the true alpha in that offense. Even Chig, even though he didn't do anything, he was on the field a ton. So he's going to contribute as well. I just don't think Treylon Burks is going to be what I hoped for. He'll have some weeks where he's, gives a good fantasy production. But in terms of volume, we all know it's the Derrick Henry show. And when they throw, it'll be D-Hop, and then everyone else is fighting for scraps. So there's a reason Treylon Burks was going in the 9th round. He's not going to be one of those picks that all of a sudden he produces like a 4th, 5th rounder, in my opinion. I think that sailed.
Last topic of the day. In 4 weeks, who's going to be the Jets quarterback?
Case.
Think they're going to roll with? Oh, come on, no. I think Case Keenum has a show with the Athletic.
No, that's Colt McCoy you're thinking of. I know exactly what you're thinking.
It's not Colt McCoy either.
Okay.
Who is it?
It's Colt McCoy.
You keep talking. I'm going to look this up.
I saw everybody throwing around names. Case Keenum. Listen, go sign Case Keenum. Zach Wilson sucks, and he's going to bomb out. And in a couple of weeks, when you need to save the season, when the wide receivers are looking at Zach Wilson and cursing him out on the sideline, you need to be able to bring a gunslinger in. Case Keenum, in my opinion, fits that bill. I don't want to see Carson Wentz. I don't want to see Joe Flacco. I don't want to see any of these. But it's crazy now. Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, those were my targets in the mid-1st round when I got out to Vegas. And
can you still believe in Garrett Wilson though? I mean, he still had.
Listen, this isn't a Garrett Wilson problem. It's not about Garrett Wilson in terms of his talent. Garrett Wilson was going to be an absolute smash superstar this year. He's still going to put up some numbers, okay, but he doesn't have the quarterback to get him the ball in every right spot like an Aaron Rodgers was going to do. The back shoulder fades, the timing routes. Like Zach Wilson isn't that guy, but yeah, they got to feed him. But now the offensive philosophy has to change. Rodgers, when you got an Aaron Rodgers and you're inside the 5-yard line, you're throwing most of the time because that's what he wants. You're keeping him happy. Now with Zach Wilson, you think the Jets are going to be calling pass plays? No, run the ball. They have Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. This is going to be a run-heavy team, and Garrett Wilson is – I'll tell you right now, I have a couple Allen Lazard shares. I'm dropping him tonight straight across the board. There's no way this team could support a 2nd target, a 3rd target where you can actually be playable. So Lazard would be a sneaky Randall. They might as well release Randall Cobb right now, to be honest with you. Just release Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb.
What about Nathaniel Hackett?
They should release him too. No, but think about that. You're Randall Cobb.
Chase Daniel's the guy with the show.
Gee, I don't know about that. Anyway,
no, I just looked at the
Randall
press release.
Cobb wants to be in New York still? All these guys.
Who wouldn't want to be in New York?
Guys want out of New York now.
Why?
They all want to be. They want to be in New York for the nightlife and to go out to nice dinners and stuff. But you think
Granite Street Tavern has both of those?
Yep. There you go. So yeah, no, I'll throw my hat in the ring for Case Keenum. I think he could save an offense for fantasy production, not real life. Maybe not real life production, but fantasy production. Give me him.
PJ Walker. That's your answer.
Yeah.
He's actually.
How'd you feel about what? What do you think about another hot topic in fantasy after week 1 is the Lions backfield, Nando? How would you look at that? How would you view them?
Well, we only have about 5 minutes, and I don't really want to get into it. It's going to take up the rest of the show.
Okay. What was your favorite game this past week to watch?
No, I do think Gibbs. I think people went. See, I don't know, man. I don't know how you can be in love with Bijan Robinson and dump on Gibbs. You know what I mean? It just seemed like if you liked one, you should like the other. And I didn't see a lot of that concurrency going on. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Montgomery was good. Dave Montgomery he won a lot of leagues 2 years ago. I think maybe in 2020.
I'll give you my take, Nando. Okay.
Yeah.
The going into this season, I thought these two running backs were just not. I thought Gibbs was being way overdrafted and Montgomery was being way underdrafted.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying week one confirmed that or anything like that, but you give me a running back in the 7th round in Montgomery behind that offensive line, getting 15, 20 carries, who you knew was going to play more than 60% of the time. They weren't going to make Gibbs like a bell cow back. You're drafting a Jahmyr Gibbs type running back. And I'm not saying it can't work out and play out because a lot of sharp fantasy players were on Jahmyr Gibbs. But in the 3rd round, which he never got out of, the top 36 overall, a guy who's playing less than 30% of the snaps opening week. Now, I assume that number will go up some, and he's going to help you out of the backfield catching the ball and stuff. But don't you need kind of more of a game script here to get going? In my opinion, if the Lions are a solid team, which I think they are, behind a solid offensive line and a good team that's going to be leading a lot, that just spells more Montgomery to me. And at worst, Montgomery is going to be the 60% lead back over a Gibbs. One's going in the 7th, one's going in the 3rd. To me, it was a no-brainer. I tried to get my hands on Montgomery as every single draft I went into, and I was fading Gibbs this draft season in my high-stakes drafts.
So you read a lot of Michael Salfino this preseason then?
Yeah.
He took a lot of crap in the comments for fading Gibbs, and look at him now. He's not doing victory laps on a podcast.
Does he have one?
I don't know. Yeah, he does. The Breakfast Table with John Legueza. All right, we got to go. We got to get out of here. Christopher J. Vaccaro.
Nando, it's good to be back with you, buddy. We'll be here every Wednesday. Fantasy Player Profiler, our show, Fantasy Empire. We'll be here every week. Nando will be giving you bad fantasy advice. I'll be trying to give you the opposite.
Well, I can't anymore. I'm not allowed to speak on the show.
Top defense and everything like that. But it's good to be back. It's good to be in your presence, my friend.
You live in the past. You got to look forward.
Whatever.
All right, we got to go. Hold on, wait. Stall for a minute while I find the end bumper.
I have nothing to stall. I'm looking forward to week 2.
I forgot. Yeah, you're all scripted.
That's it. I'm done.
We're out of here.
That's it.
Goodbye, everybody.